See other people also do ma. Other people also do, so why can't I do?
But what if the whole ceiling was to fall? Then who would be liable for it?
HDB doesn't say buy your own risk.
As an ID, right, what we can do is we can preempt them.
It's complex, but I think uniquely Singapore make the renovation, everyone in the renovation site, right, a living hell.
你可以不可以顺便帮我 paint 我的房间跟客厅 ？If you want to do it, can, but don't get caught.
Stuck between a professional code of conduct versus the fact that at the end of the day we're doing a sale, right? We're just trying to make ends meet as well. But how do you deal with this kind of thing? What's your go-to source for inspiration when you hit a creative roadblock? I like your answer. It's honest, direct, authentic. Hello everyone, welcome to this episode of the SIXiDER Show, where we ask tough questions to the designers, merchants and renovators related to the Singapore interior design industry. I'm your host, SD Ng, aka The Designer. And joining me here today, we have Lucas Lee from Project 19. Welcome, Lucas. Yay! Hey Lucas, can I find out a little bit more about yourself and your practice, Project 19?
Okay, so me myself, I've been in this industry, interior designer industry for around 8 years already, coming to 8 years to be exact. I was previously from Chapter 13 Interior, and we actually branched out to open up Project 19. So Project 19 has been in the market for around 2 years already, and we're hoping to do better and better. Yeah.
So Project 19 is a subsidiary of Chapter 13.
Yes.
So what's with the fascination with numbers?
To be honest, me and my partner, we didn't have any names on. We didn't have any names like on mind. So we were thinking like, what is a good number? So we're thinking like, because certain numbers they have 3 syllables, like 23. So 19 is like only 19. So it rings to us actually. So in terms of number, there's no association to why we chose 19 is because of Chapter 13. No, it's just that we find it as a good number for the both of us .
I think there's a symbolic element to it. 9 plus 1 is 10.
十全十美, right?
Yeah, then become perfect already. Okay. So, over many years in practice, I'm sure you have a lot of experience with HDB projects and, of course, condos and landed as well. But specifically, we want to talk about probably HDB first.
Yeah, sure.
When it comes to renovating HDB projects, there's usually a few types. One is the brand new BTO, everybody collect key at the same time, everybody is rushing to complete so that homeowners can move in. Then you've got mature estates where basically there are already occupants, inhabitants all over the estate.
Yeah.
And at that point, when you renovate, you will create noise, maybe even pollution and disturbances to the people living in the estate.
For sure.
Yeah. So how do you deal with this kind of projects?
We start off with BTO HDB's projects. So for BTOs, right, generally they are considered an easier project to do. Why? Because like what you mentioned, there's no people staying in and around that area. So what we usually do, right, is we will do the necessary permit applications and all prior to starting certain works. Certain works requires HDB permit, certain works don't require. So for example, those works that require, we will do the necessary application first, then we will start the renovation work. Resale HDBs in particular, for my own style, right, what I would usually do is, if there's hacking works involved, definitely we will go what we call the cross, up, down, left and right, to inform the neighbors 2 to 3 days prior to the renovation works, because it's gonna be very, very, very noisy. So in order to let the renovation run peacefully without any complaints. So because for some of the homeowners around there, the neighbors, right, they will actually complain if there's no prior notification and all. So that's what we usually do.
But even if they complain when there's no prior notification, there's nothing much you can do because you got the approval.
It's considered a rule by the HDB to inform the neighbors prior to that. Why is that so? Because the standard golden rule is actually to go inside the unit to check on the status of their ceilings and the status of their tiles and all of that. So what happens is that, not all neighbors but there are some neighbors that are not that friendly, right? So when we start on the hacking work, right, they would say, oh, you didn't inform me prior to that. I say, you're not home. And for us, we do actually write down a slip of paper to slip into their house to let them know that we are doing renovation work on that approved hacking date. But for certain neighbors, they are that I don't say im or what lah, but they have that mindset like they want to exploit certain things. For example, so when we begin hacking works, right, the neighbors will actually come up and tell me, hey Lucas, because they didn't know my name, hey Lucas, when you start hacking, right, my ceiling start to crack and things start to deteriorate.
Shake lah.
Yeah, and then they say like the shaking of the building, right, actually caused my ceiling to crack, my panes to drop off, and there was even once that the owner told me the toilet bowl cracked. So I have no way to justify whether this was already it was already there before I started hacking it, because I wasn't they weren't at home. I couldn't go in to check. In order to prevent further things, or to just settle this issue, right, what I did was actually replace the toilet bowl for the homeowners under my own cost lah. And also painting of the ceiling and repairing of the ceiling is not expensive thing to do. So I just want to settle this issue, just do it for them lah. From my own point of view, right, if I don't settle it, right, they will actually go to HDB. Then HDB, at the end of the day, HDB is just a middleman. They just want us to rectify the issue lah. Then HDB will also come back to me and they will say, did you actually check beforehand? I say, I can't check because there wasn't anybody home. So to not have this problem, right, I would actually rectify this issue for them.
At your own cost.
At my own cost, yes.
So I understand that there is a due diligence process. It's become an SOP mandated by HDB.
Yes.
And of course, you also make sure that your team and yourself, you conduct this every time. But there will be incidences whereby you have no access to the property.
Correct.
And then things happen and then you stepped in. But isn't it like a bit of a risk to undertake resale work? I mean, the older the property, the higher likelihood that your up, down, left, right will have issues. Whether it's exploitative or not, therein lies this probability. Especially we're talking about mature estates like 40 years old. Yeah. Like Tiong Bahru, right? A lot of people love to, you know, buy the property there, but it is inherently old.
Yes.
Yeah.
You are totally right about these old houses. I mean, like, of course, in so many years of my experience, I've done so many resale houses. There's bound to be many surprises. In recent months, I did one project in Yishun. It's about 35 years old, and this was the first time I ever faced this issue. The project that I'm actually doing, right, they are planning to revamp the whole place. So heavy hacking works is definitely needed. When we applied for the HDB permit, right, the HDB office actually called me, and then he mentioned that this is a very old building, and the ceiling, right, they might have a chance of like spalling concrete or even massive pieces of the concrete falling off from the ceiling. Then I was like, oh, this is the first time I'm hearing this. What he wanted me to do, right, was actually to construct 2 structural wooden beams to support the ceiling, and also to add on like a thick cloth or protection to protect the ceiling prior to us starting the renovation works. So what this
The building at the level below you.
Yes, correct. So I'm doing level 5. They asked me to do it on the level below, 2 to 3 days prior to the hacking work. I actually liaised with the homeowner below, and then we did up this protection and this structural support. In the event, if let's say we were to hack the kitchen flooring and the concrete starts to fall off. So this was one of the one I was quite surprised, because it never happened before for so many years of my experience.
So it was more like a safety measure.
Yes.
To ensure that the occupants below do not have concussion, right? The thing drop on their head and kill someone or something like that.
Yep.
But it comes at a cost, right? To do something like that still comes at cost, but who bears it?
Whenever the homeowners engage me, right, these sort of things are like unforeseen. We cannot predict as well, because like what I said, I have never seen this issue for so many years of my experience. So I told the homeowner about this issue. They were kind enough to say that they can actually bear half of the cost. So I feel that it's a bit unfair for the homeowners, because they buy the place, they also don't expect these kind of things to happen. But I do tell them for old houses, there are a lot of these sort of issues we don't see. So I actually bear the whole cost of the structural support for the homeowners lah. But in the end, they mentioned like, do you really want to cover the cost or not? Because it's not cheap. It's almost to $1,000 already. So I say it's okay lah. Whatever I can cover. I always use this sentence. Whatever I can cover, I will cover. If I can't, then I will inform you all beforehand lah.
Yeah, that's a really nice gesture. And I think in the grand scheme of things, right? while your presence in the renovation process is that few months while you're there, the occupants, the homeowners that you are servicing, as well as the homeowners downstairs, they are going to be staying there for a sustained period of time. And any amount of goodwill would foster neighborliness lah.
Exactly.
I think that's a very important point of view. But I do feel, or rather I'm questioning the ownership of this kind of measures, like safety measures. The building is old and no one talks about it, right? HDB doesn't say, buy your own risk, be prepared to spend more to protect it. And if I trace a little bit back to like how typically renovation sale is conducted, right, is that everybody tenders for it by proposing a quotation, and usually the cheapest win. With your foresight now, like, now that you understand that this type of projects will have this kind of problem, you may factor in certain costs, like this provision for it, and you table that quotation to the homeowners, and all these so-called extra things that you put inside suddenly kicks you out of the competition. You may not get a job. It's quite a dilemma, isn't it?
Yep. Okay, so for us, right, like I mentioned previously, right, I covered the cost for the homeowners. As I said, homeowners, they hire an ID is because they don't have the experience or they don't know what it's gonna be like. As an ID, right, what we can do is we can preempt them, but we don't include it into the quotation. Why is that so? Because like what you said, if we were to include into the quotation, and definitely the price point would be way higher than certain IDs. But then again, not all resale houses will have this sort of issues. So cases to cases, we will actually head up to the unit to see if there's any like spalling concretes or any sort of issues with the how old is the building and all. You never know all these things until we see it ourselves. Tell the homeowners is that actually HDB, they do cover part of the cost for repairing. For example, spalling concrete, right? They actually cover half of the cost, if I'm not wrong. But the waiting time tends to be very long. Can be from 3 months to even 6 months. So certain owners, they don't want to wait. So they would ask me, hey Lucas, can you actually help? I say, okay lah, 做给你 lah, like this sort of things. So at the end of the day, I feel that in this line, it's good to have this kind of service where people would, in the future, they would think, oh, my friends wants to renovate, they will actually refer back to me lah. So it's kind of a 拉长补短 kind of thing lah.
It goes a long way.
It goes a long way for sure. Yeah.
But ultimately, I do feel ultimately, at the end of the day, is that not enough literature, not enough information is shared about this kind of potential issues.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whenever this sort of things happen, right, the HDB officer will be the one that's liaising with the designer, mainly us. So they will usually come to a conclusion. So what happened for that unit that I mentioned, the structural support, right? They mentioned that if anything falls off, right, then do you want to cover the cost? Then I say, if it's like small spots, I can actually cover for the below neighbor, no issue. But what if the whole ceiling was to fall off? Then who will be liable for it? The HDB officer mentioned, right, was to put the renovation on halt, and for them to go and access the how old and how bad is the spalling concrete, or is there any possibility of the concrete dropping off and all. So I said that my homeowners, they are actually renting a flat right now. I do not have the luxury of time to actually let y'all go and access, because the time taken will be for a very, very long period. So in black and white, I sent the HDB officer a text say that if any issues with the ceiling, I will bear full responsibility.
Wow.
Then that is when they will say, okay, go ahead. Because to be honest, as long as you don't affect them and you bear the responsibility, they are okay for you to go ahead.
That's nice. Does HDB cover any insurance on this? Now, I'm just asking, being a devil's advocate here, is that they ask you to, let's say, protect the ceiling at kitchen, and that's because you're doing the kitchen upstairs. But this kind of thing, the vibration can go anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? And it may even affect, let's say, the living hall.
Yes.
You didn't do the reinforcement at the living hall, and sway the thing lands on someone. Your HDB license, does it give you some form of insurance? Does it give insurance to the occupants downstairs, including your homeowners?
For HDB, they will definitely be responsible, but to what extent, we wouldn't know. One thing that the HDB officer mentioned to me, right, is that the homeowners below, right, they will say, if the upper unit don't do any renovation works, right, then the possibility of my ceiling dropping off is almost to zero ma. So why should I be bad with the cost for repairing the ceiling? So it all boils down to how the neighbors below speak to the officers, you see. So for HDB license itself, right, it's actually licensed for companies to do the HDB itself. I feel that as long as you speak properly to the HDB officers, they are quite what do you call that? I've ever seen like homeowners that really negotiate with them, right? They actually did up the whole repair for free. So I mean, like, yeah, lor, that's how I see it. That's how I feel.
The reason why I'm like probing this deeper and deeper into it is largely because I want to make sure that our audience understands that the risk involves in buying property like that, and then since no one really talks about it, and the provision for something like that can potentially hamper the schedule, right? Affect goodwill and all that, and ultimately even the designers that you choose, because clearly if you hire a designer that doesn't have that kind of experience, these things are not in their radar one.
Yeah.
They wouldn't know one.
Yes.
And then when things happen, everybody will garang kabo to a certain extent. Thanks for sharing so many information with regards to HDBs and all that. What about condos? Now, I share a little bit about my experience with condos and then see whether you concur with my observations as well. Number one, condos usually are occupied by people who are a little bit more affluent, meaning got a bit more money lah, right? And then foreigners also tend to stay at the condos a bit more, largely because they cannot get HDB, right? So they stay at condos. And I find that there are certain foreigners who tend to have this human rights thinking, and they feel that whenever there's renovation going on and it affects them, even though you have the permits, it's well within your operating hours, and because you disturb their peace, they come up and they'll knock and they bang the door, they will complain to the security guard, and they make the renovation. Everyone in the renovation site, right, a living hell.
Yeah.
Have you had that before?
Many times actually.
Yeah.
Not to say not all condo owners lah.
And not all foreigners.
Not all foreigners, not all condo owners lah. Okay,
Sure.
and not rich people in particular. Okay, so what happened is that from time to time lah, when we do condominium projects, you see, there are those neighbors, right? They are a little bit more. They think they are the higher ups. People lah.
Elites.
They're the elites lah, so-called the elites lah. So whenever we do the renovation works, right, be it with all the necessary permits, all the necessary applications, right, they would still, as what you said, disturb their peace, right? They feel entitled to come up and speak to us or to call us directly to say that, hey, why are you doing this renovation right now at this timing? I say, it's the approved hours. So what are you complaining about? So there are certain neighbors, they'll be like, oh, my kid is having exams next month. From this timing to this timing, can you not do any works? Then I'm like, I'm sorry lah. I say, if I can, I will try my best to follow this timing. But condominium, they have specific working hours that we can work from 9 to 5, this sort of timing. So we actually have a very tight time crunch, you see. So we will actually speak to them on this. And then come to an agreement. But of course, they are not all homeowners or not all neighbors, they are that understanding. I would say that some condos are actually harder to do than others, especially those richer. I mean, the more expensive condominiums.
Those at the Orchard area.
not to
Street 15.
not to name which areas lah, but then it's just a norm lah to per se.
Yeah. So you see, renovation not easy. You deal with a old estate, then you have to buy insurance, right? if you are working on a slightly more affluent estate, you probably have to buy more fruit baskets, right?
We do actually do that. So sometimes my owners or me lah, we will buy like cookies and then we give up to the nearby owner. So even if they want to come out and complain, they'll be a bit paiseh. They'll be like, actually this company, this ID not bad. I will come and inform us beforehand. Maybe I just close one eye lah. Yeah, but again, it's not something wrong that we do is all the necessary permits already applied for so even they complain to the security, the MCSTs, right, they can't do anything also so at the end of the day, I think it's more important to work it out between the neighbours and us. Why? Because I'm not the one that's going to be staying there for the next 5, 10, 20 years. The owners are. So I also want to make the owners have a good relationship with the neighbours below, up, down, or left or right. So that in the many, many years to come, they can have good relationships.
If we were to rewind the clock a little bit to the time where COVID hit, right? So COVID hit renovation was still going along, right? Renovation was still happening, albeit lesser, but still somehow we can run the project. And then, of course, that period of time where there were still lockdowns and many people were working from home, they suddenly were spending a whole lot more time indoors at home. And renovation suddenly becomes a very amplified thing, right?
Yes.
Did you encounter a lot of issues with that period?
Well, that was considered like the worst time. Why? Because everyone is on considered lockdown. Everyone is staying at home. So renovation becomes it kind of like what you say, amplifies the whole entire ordeal. Like back then it was like normal to have renovation, but now everyone is staying at home. So it becomes very inconvenient for certain homeowners. They want peace at home. So when we start on renovation work, there's bound to be more complaints directly to HDB or complain directly to us, because we do give our numbers, you see, as I mentioned. How we deal with this is, again, to work it out with the neighbours themselves, then come up with something. Example, working hours wise, we don't really have to worry that much. We would actually speak to the owners. Okay, maybe if you're saying that 1 to 2 o'clock you need to rest, maybe I'll get my workers to go for lunch. Then when they come back, then they will resume works, you see. So this is how we work it out with the neighbours.
At the end of the day, everybody was very bottled up, very mangzang, and it was tricky. It's important to navigate this in a very sensitive and empathetic way.
Yes, you are already trapped inside your own home, right? Then this thing will make you a bit more pigtail also.
Cannot escape.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, we also need to understand where they're coming from. So if I'm in their position, I'm in their shoes, right? Then I'm at home, I have to be home 24/7. Then this thing keeps on going, I would feel frustrated also. I can't even step out of the house, you see. So yeah.
2 things to learn from this. Number 1 is that you staying in your current place, you probably went through the renovation. And while your place was renovating, you were not there. Other people had to put up with it, right?
Yes.
So that's point number 1. So it's fair to kind of everybody got their turn, right? The second point is that now in the renovation side, right, it can be very big tick.
Yeah.
Because can you imagine a taller? Can you imagine a painter? Can you imagine so many people that's inside, right, putting out with the noise, dust, and the pollution that happens? It is not an easy job.
Yes.
But it's definitely something that since we've made it our career already, it is what it is. Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand the hardship of interior designer. We are basically 包头包尾嘛. So for homeowners that engage a ID, that is what you should be experiencing without having any headaches from the start to the end. The ID should be the one that's going to be lasting throughout the whole entire project. If not, why would you want to hire an interior designer? Just hire a contractor, you see.
Or DIY.
Or DIY, even DIY. Yeah, but DIY is not that easy. So we do face certain issues with DIY as well. But of course, if you have the experience to do so, go ahead. And we are more than happy to help if you need to do it yourself.
Okay, cool. Lucas, we're going to go to more questions. There are some projects, especially resale projects, that maybe due to certain reasons, you have no access to the property until the homeowner receives the key. And once you go in, you realize something is not right. Like, for example, a missing column or unauthorized built up or something. Like, for example, another level or another mezzanine. Then that kind of situation, what do you do? Because you undertook the contract already, right? And I think by law, you are supposed to advise and tell them to remove, but the homeowner purchased it based on I want this or based on this condition. Then what do you do?
So for HDB, right, usually when you purchase a old flat or a resale flat, right, the HDB officer will actually go up to do an inspection for any sort of illegal build-ups, or for example, windows that are done up without any BCA approval and without any permits. So that one, the HDB officer will catch on to it, and then the previous homeowners, they will actually need to get the ones that done up the window, or they have to get someone to apply for the window permits, or they would actually check the conditions of the window. If it's not that good, then they will have to be the ones that gonna replace all the windows, you see. So for illegal columns or any issues with structural parts, right, when we undertake that project, right, when we go up and see for the first time and we notice, hey, why isn't this thing over here anymore? It shouldn't be like that, because it's considered a beam lah. So or structural column. That what I would do for personally, right, is I will call up HDB first. Then HDB would then call a PE, a professional engineer, to come up and check on the situation, because it's quite a serious issue, hacking a column or hacking a beam, because it undertakes the whole building's integrity. So that's for resale part. I think for most of the time when we take over a unit, right, all these issues should have already been picked up by the officers themselves prior to us. So in any ways, what we want to do is just to protect ourselves from that.
So you're saying that there's no way that there will be a lapse on the surveyor?
That could be a possibility. We ever faced before. Certain HDB officers could be more stringent, like in terms of the checking part. There are certain times when I go up and then there isn't this thing over here, but it's there. So what again? It falls under this issue when we undertake the project, right? Again, I will call up the officers to come up and check again, just to protect the new homeowners and us itself. Say, hey, this wasn't done by us. It was already done up prior to us getting the unit. So for condominiums per se, right, the ones that I've seen before are mainly mezzanines. So for mezzanines, right, they are actually a built up level in the unit itself. So certain projects, certain condominiums, they do allow that, and certain condominiums, they don't allow that at all. So for homeowners that purchase the unit because of that particular reason, right, again, I will tell them by right is illegal, but by left, if you want to keep it, right, you can either keep it quietly, or I inform the MCSD which is the management. So if the management says no, then that becomes that you have to remove it So this one all boils down to the homeowners already. So if the homeowner says, hey Lucas, it's okay we just keep it, because the previous owners, they do it with or without the management approval, it doesn't really matter anymore, unless when they do an inspection, when they brought it up, we will say, it's done by the previous homeowners, not by us.
But the offense is very severe, right? From what I understand, this means that, especially from a private estate point of view, it's an increase of your gross floor area.
Yes, correct. It's an increment of the GFA under the URA's approval or non-approval. I ever faced before, my homeowners, they actually tell the MCSD, are you very sure that none of the homeowners here or the neighbours here built up this mezzanine or not? They can't answer, because they are sure that there are people doing this. The MCSD will always protect themselves. They will say, if you want to do it, can, but don't get caught. If the URA was to come up to do a check, then they want you to remove or they fine you, then it's entirely up to you already. 你要做你自己扛
So for condos, will you be implicated? Now HDB, I know it's for sure, if you build on something that's already wrong already and you still build on, you will cannot, because you got HDB license.
Yes.
That's at stake. But for condos, there isn't a HDB license thingy, right? The mezzanine exists. They ask you to build on the mezzanine, do more stuff to this, and you comply. Assuming that the homeowner insists on it and you comply. Will you get into trouble if really at the end of the day, URA come and inspects, BCA come and inspect? Would you suffer?
I always tell my homeowners, right, 你们要做 right, 你们自己承担 I will always write in black and white to the homeowners, telling.
So you mean a contract?
Not say contract, but it's more to like a black and white kind of thing that we send over to them, and then they acknowledge it. So
letter of indemnity.
Correct. In the event, if there is this possibility of fines or a removal, right, we will not be liable for it, because we already advised you beforehand. So yeah, that's what we always tell the homeowners. In terms of affecting us, I don't think so, because again, condominium is considered a private property. It's always between the MCST, the homeowners, or even the government sector, the URA and all.
Unless they go into a civil suit. Yeah, meaning that the homeowner sues you and say that you did not professionally advise me. So the letter of indemnity helps because there's a black and white stating this date, this time I told you this, you indemnify me from all risks
Correct.
and all liability. Yeah. Oh, very important.
Very, very important, because I'm not saying to not all homeowners again. I have very, very good homeowners. I'm lucky lah. For the past 8 years, I've always have good owners. I'm saying stories that I've heard from other IDs or fellow colleagues, right? They mentioned that, oh, this owner super good, but when problem comes up, right, then they will tend to find a solution, or I mean, like maybe involving you or whatnot. So I always tell them, must take precaution on this sort of issues.
What about
Landed property again is another level lah. So when we do landed properties, right, of course again there's a requirement for a build out of like roofing or additional space and all. It's all based on the URA's approval, you see. So for homeowners that purchase a landed property, right, that doesn't have a awning or any roofing, right, they would want to do it to prevent from the sun, the rain, or even the weathers and all affecting their cars in their carports, right? I would again tell the homeowners that 你们要做的话可以, because there's no like a really like a approval kind of thing for this sort of things. There is we can apply, we can ask for it, but then if it doesn't get approved, then you still have to pay for the fees and all for application and all.
The answers that homeowners always have, right, be it that you inherit the unauthorized
works
fixture, or they ask you to do new one, right? They ask you to do new one. The sentence that they always say is, you see other people also do, ma. Other people also do, so why can't I do? You're kind of stuck, right? You're stuck between a professional code of conduct versus the fact that at the end of the day, we're doing a sale, right? We're just trying to make ends meet as well. But how do you deal with this kind of thing?
Certain homeowners, they understand where we are coming from. We say this because it's 为了你们好啦. But certain owners, they want it because it's a need for them. So I would actually advise them now. I say, 你要做是可以. I can speak to the management. Then the management will always come up with the same answer. If you want to do it, don't get caught. Same for whichever condominiums I do, right? There was even one condominium, an expensive condominium. I went to the MCST. I asked, can I do roofing at the penthouse level, the swimming pool level? And the answer was, can. Then I said, oh, really? But you require a PE. So I said, okay, I will apply for a PE application. And I told the homeowners, they were happy. Then when the PE comes, I went for submission. Then the other lady told me, no, it's not allowed. Then I'm like, huh? But your colleague told me yes, but you told me no. So how now? Then they told me at the side, you want to do it? You can do it. But if any of the people that comes and check, then you have to take the responsibility lah. Then we have to sign a like an indemnity form lah, to state that we are aware of this thing, that if any issues pop up, MCST will not bear any responsibility. Is to cover their own piku.
What about something that's a little bit more grey, and it has to do with design? For example, a platform that's raised substantially, like maybe 30 cm off the ground, next to a window.
Okay.
And it concerns safety, right? Because there is a certain height,
the parapet,
parapet, right? Which is typically the 900 to 1000 mm, where kids cannot,
really
fall.
The height level.
But once you build a platform like that and you park it adjacent or rather next to the window, suddenly it becomes a safety hazard. Now the homeowner insists on it. With everything that's in the HDB purview and all that, this is not allowed. And when you express that to them, they say, oh, we can make it modular, so it looks like it's a piece of furniture. But we want it. How? Will you do or not?
Again, end of the day, right, it's all about compromising also with the homeowners. But the chance of it getting, the grey area, like getting it checked and all, right, it's very, very, very low lah.
But the question here is about your professional code of conduct, ma.
Yep.
They have kids, they have dogs, they have cats, and they insist on like a bay window / platform thingy next to a window. Will you not put a hard stop to this?
I would advise them on putting safety like window grills, invisible grills, or any kind of sort of protection like window restrictors for the kids to, they don't have access to the keys, they can't even open it on their own. That is if they die want these sort of things. But as a professional, I would always tell them by right it's not allowed lah. But if you really want to do it, please,
Then you think of alternatives.
yes, the alternative to like safety precautions and all sorts of things like that. So in order to prevent from any
mishaps.
yeah.
What about those kind of situations whereby you take over, it's not, everything is regular, but they ask you to do some irregular stuff? For example, the bathroom extend out, and then maybe the way that the toilet bowl is currently positioned a certain way, they're not asking you to shift it, they're asking you to orientate it slightly differently, so that now instead of facing the door, it faces this way, it's still using that hole. Or they may even ask you to do a suspended wall hung type. Right. You do those things, of course the homeowner aesthetically wants all this because got consumer, got this or that. But will you do it?
Well, that's a very, very, very tough question, because all these sort of things, right, requires permit from the HDB. Because at the end of the day, I do not want to be, it to be affecting my HDB license as well. So everything, there's rules for a reason. So owners that wants to, do outside of the rules, right, I can try and apply for the permit. But if it doesn't get approved, then I will tell them, sorry, I can't do it, because it's a code of conduct. You see, like HDB license is a very important thing, because 我的 fund one. Because if my HDB license is suspended or it's being taken away, then technically I cannot do HDB at all. Yeah, so I do not want that to happen. At the same time, I always tell the homeowners, because if you all do all this right, it's not permitted. Then if you were to sell the place, then you would have to reinstate it. Then isn't that a hassle to you? Unless you're telling me you're staying for the next 20, 30 years per se, then maybe if you want to do it, then...
What about, like, in your career so far, what are the top 3 most ridiculous complaints that you have kena before?
Complaints as in the homeowners complaining to the HDB officers?
Yeah.
Okay, there was once this neighbor lah, they told me that, when you are hacking, right, the stone, right, fall off, hit my bamboo, hit into my unit, and then it cracked my stuff.
Wow.
Then I'm like,
bamboo as in the take-go outside?
The take-go outside. Then I'm like, the mathematics of the angle, hit here, hit there, it's almost like impossible kind of thing.
But how she witnessed the thing happen?
No, the person did not. He just said that there's debris in the house. Then they took some photos and then they told HDB. So HDB officer then they were like, can you go down and see? Then I'm like, I went down. Then I'm like looking up, and then I was like, how is it possible that it will fall and then hit that take-go, and then the take-go hit the item, you see? So
it's not one speck of or one stone, right? It's many stone that hits the take-go.
No, it says one stone. One stone. Then I'm like, 有一点不可能 but then it's again, there's also a possibility but I don't know how. But if 你说什么就是什么嘛, I have no ways to prove that.
So what you do, you go there and then you see the thing ready, you say, okay, you're very good, you're Sherlock Holmes. I respect your speculation. This one stone, now that you inform me, I thank you for it. I'm going to take it, I'm going to throw it. Thank you, bye-bye. One stone. For one stone.
Yeah, for one stone.
They escalated to the HDB officer.
Because to them, it's considered a safety hazard. They don't know whether more will come into the unit or not. But again, it's just one stone. And I'm like, please lah, 你可以跟我讲嘛, I can get someone to go and clean and I'll just apologize to you. But again, it doesn't necessarily mean it's from me ma. There are also other neighbours doing renovation works, you see. So 就是这么的 unlucky lah.
Very, very interesting. Any other cases?
So for another complaint that I got from the neighbour was, they mentioned
different neighbour.
Different neighbour. This is a totally different project already. So what happened was, again, they don't tell us about the issue. They will escalate it straight to HDB side. So for this homeowner, for this neighbour they actually called HDB and said, when we started drilling, this when their tiles started to have hairline cracks everywhere. It's like really, like literally everywhere. So I told HDB officer, it's kind of not possible. But again, I didn't go into the unit because the neighbor wasn't home. So I actually told HDB officer, why not I go down and take a look. So when I went down there, and my profession, I knocked on the tiles, right? The tiles were already hollowed out. Really, like really hollow. When you knock at it, it's like you can hear the hollowness in the tiles. So this was actually done badly by the previous contractors. So I believe from my experience is that there were already cracks here and there. What they want us is to, replace it or to patch it up and all. So I always tell the HDB officers I'm more than happy to do it as long as the homeowners are okay with it. But there are certain neighbors, they are that over, they will say, no, I want you to redo everything. I say that's impossible because you don't have a proof to say that it's caused by me ma. Although I don't have any proof to say that it isn't caused by me. So I say that again, I emphasize, right, it's very, very important for all the interior designers out there, right, to check on the unit's condition before we do any renovation work. That's number one key point to us, everyone in this industry. In the end, how we settle this is we come up with a solution within ourselves. I don't want to trouble the HDB officer also. I will always tell the homeowners directly, I will settle this issue for you. How? We'll come up with a solution, whether to patch it nicely or to replace some of the tiles if you have the spare tiles, or I can replace it with a different kind of tiles, but not the whole area the ones that are more jialat, the ones that are more serious, then we can come to an agreement.
Any more?
This one is quite common among the whole resale houses. Ceiling cracks, ceiling dropping off, paint peeling off, waterproofing issues and all. But there are houses that I went to, right, they already had the issues beforehand. So I will tell the homeowners, you already had this issue. I took photos. I say, if you want to rectify this issue, you can contact HDB directly. Because when we start renovating, right, we wouldn't know what will happen to the ceilings. They know once we hack, right, we can't really know what's the possible problems with the house. The most common one is the ceiling cracking and ceiling falling off for old houses especially. So we always tell them you can find HDB straight away. But certain times they will be like, oh, okay. We'll be like, wow, very good. They will say, okay, 没问题, 你们装修.
So on that same vein of thought, which is exploiting, do you have that kind of situations where your neighbors actually come over and say, you're doing 顺便 can help me like paint a bit around here, paint a bit down there or not?
Especially 比较老的 auntie uncles, right? They have never renovated for the past 10, 20, even 30 years. So there's already a lot of stainings, a lot of cracks of paint peeling off already. So for, again, out of goodwill, we always want to settle this issue. We will just say, okay, when my guys are painting our unit, I will 顺便 go down and paint for you. But some of them, they will feel like, 哇，这个 ID 很好. They want to,
得寸进
尺, yes. So they will be like, 你可以不可以顺便帮我 paint 我的房间跟客厅? Then I will be like,
搞了auntie.
我讲 auntie 我是好心帮你油你的厕所跟厨房，已经好心了。你要油整间家，你应该找做油漆的. I shouldn't even be liable for all this issue because it's the problem with your flat ma. So I say, if you want, you can call HDB to help you, but as of now, I can help you, whatever I can help you, I'll help you lah.
Nice.
And yeah, so again, to me, this sort of small problems, okay lah, 做给你们啦, but then 不要得寸进尺啦.
Yeah. Just show them I only have 这一桶用完就没有了你省用. Or you give it to her lah, ask her to DIY. Sometimes they are happy also.
Yeah, actually, as long as you do something for them, right, or you give them something, right, then they'll be contented lah. As much as we can, we just help them more. Because they also don't want this thing to happen ma. But exploiting it is the way of saying 讲难听啦. Like, but 真正是小弟你可以帮个忙嘛? Of course, I will be more than willing to help you. Because the cost is generally not much. Our painters, they are okay to go down and just use the same paint and paint. Doesn't affect anything ma.
Okay, my turn. I got 2 stories to share.
Okay.
I'm dying to share. And I really call them ridiculous to a certain extent. The first one is actually a HDB project.
Okay.
So this is long time ago, at least 20 years ago. All right. We were doing marble. Okay. We're laying marble for this particular customer. And as we are laying the marble for this customer, A typical renovation project like that, especially with marble, can be slightly longer because you got to do waterproofing and then so that we can put marble and then we can do polishing. There's a lot of water involved. The whole renovation, instead of about 2 months, right, we took almost close to 3 months. Somewhere around the second month or so, right, the neighbor from downstairs came up and he was very upset. And he said, when are y'all ever going to be done? You know, and do you know that I think it was like my grandfather or my father passed away, you know, and the father was staying in that house, right? And then somehow or other, old age, passed on, and then he attributed that, you know, he, during the last few days of his life, due to renovation or whatsoever, couldn't die in peace. Okay, he said that, and then of course we felt bad, right? And of course he's in grief. We tried to be understanding, and I wasn't there to hear this from him. He told someone that was at the job site, and then I came and apologized, you know, make amends. 1 week later, and I swear to you, this is a real story. He came up and said someone else in the family died, not staying in this property. I think this time round is the wife's father-in-law, some wife's father or mother.
Not staying in the unit.
Not staying in the unit.
Okay.
And this time round, he was teary-eyed and all that. Again, you know, saying that, you know, if you're have finished your reno work, then, you know, I'll be happy to bring my family to my house because we don't have to listen to all this noise and also the dust and all that. Again, he slapped that responsibility and that guilt right onto us. And again, I'm like, what do we do? I know there was another third death. And within the span of that few weeks, right, anything that could have gone wrong to this family really went wrong. And he really piled the guilt onto us. And as the designer of that project, right, I really don't know what to say, because I felt that my homeowner who's going to be staying there, right, he's going to be dealing with this neighbor. And I don't know how they're going to be dealing with this neighbor. My day will end one. The day will come where我拍拍屁股我就走了。
做完就好了。
对, but then I don't know how this neighbor is going to have to deal with this. So it was really tricky, and I felt really bad about it. So that's ridiculous case number 1.
Wow, that's really ridiculous.
Yes.
Like to the extent of like the bad things that happen, it piled everything onto you. Because of your renovation, this thing happened and this thing happened. Is like a like a train of the problems.
Correct. And this second one, right, happened not too long ago.
Okay.
All right. And it was for a project, for a private project, a condo in the east side. I should not name the building name, but the building has got the exterior, right, at the top of the building has got some odd shape. So those who want to go and do some internet research can go and research. So what happened was that this particular condo has got 2 penthouse level.
Okay.
Meaning 30th, 31. Okay. And 30th, 31, right? The 30th unit actually has some structure that the 30th unit could actually make use of to create an awning so that their balcony will be shaded.
Okay.
They got the approval, they can do it. There is a MCSD saying that these are the guidelines, you want to do it, you could do it this way. But in order to do something like that, right, usually you need to get the Spider-Man to come from level 31 to come down. They have to give you access so that you can come in, send your workers to do something like that. When the neighbor upstairs is made known that such a structure is going to exist, the first thing that they felt was that it's going to affect their aesthetic. So when they're at the balcony, they look out, right, they won't see a structure sticking right now, it harms their aesthetic.
Right.
So he has an opinion, and he felt that his opinion need to be made known. So they told us, and then it was something that we could have handled, it was escalated to my homeowner.
Okay.
After it was escalated to homeowner, they decided not to talk to us anymore. They decide to, overwhelm my homeowner with options that they can do this, they can do that, and then basically is to fulfill what they want and not what my homeowners want.
Yes.
The last straw was what? No, the last straw was he actually got his wife to take photo of him climbing the building's exteriors. There is this sloping structure,
okay,
and he was standing on it, right? And he actually got a string and all that, right, to do the demonstration of how it should be done.
Wow.
And this was all without any harness. and really the guy was like on the building's structure.
I guess he really don't want the shelter.
And he took the photo to illustrate his point, sent to my homeowner. My homeowner sent to me. He said, She said, "Can you believe this guy? He
Wow.
was actually putting his life at risk just to prove
Going
a
to
point,
the extent to prove
to
that
the
point.
extent. Yeah, I mean, why am I saying this? Right, both situations actually illustrates the complexity of staying in, high-rise buildings, apartments, and where your neighbors couldn't be with you for a sustained period of time, and you either do something that you would like and anger them, or
You have a good relationship and do
or you
what
have
they
a good
want.
relationship,
Yeah.
right? It's not going to be easy one.
I've ever done same thing condominiums. I did like awnings and all, right. So my owner was staying at level 11 and the level 12 homeowner, we built a shelter. Then when it was done, he came down and complained to my owners. You know what did they say? Back then there wasn't this shelter, and when you build this shelter, the rain hits the roofing.
Got sound.
It's very loud. They say they couldn't sleep at all in their master bedroom. Then I was like, it's a approved work. So what do you expect me to do? Do you want me to put like mats on top, or what sort of things do you want me to do? Then at the end of the day, the homeowners didn't had a good relationship with them because it's a needed work for my owners. So my homeowners was like, as long as it's approved and I need it for my well-being for my own house, why should I even bother what the neighbor wants? I mean, if you want to 做好的 neighbor, then so be it lah. If you don't want, then that's it lor.
It's complex, but I think uniquely Singapore.
Not say very long in this line, but I believe I've done hundreds and hundreds of houses. They are really, really good homeowners. There are also homeowners that are not that,
Eccentric.
yeah, not say they are bad, but 比较怪一点点
Yeah,
I would say eccentric.
Yeah, they see things in their own way lah. Okay, cool. I think we've really had very interesting conversation with Lucas today. Before we end the show, right, we have a tradition here. The tradition is to ask a question and left behind by a previous guest. Colleague from chapter 13 had one interesting one. This one is a little bit team lah, but let's see how you answer. Question is this: what's your go-to source for inspiration when you hit a creative roadblock?
Wow, that's a very, very, very good question. Because being in this line for a couple of years, you tend to hit, like what you say, a creative roadblock, right? Then that comes like what you are gonna do next. So for me, my inspirations, right, is usually looking at other IDs projects as well, is to get inspiration and to learn certain design aspects as well. I think the more commonly used by IDs throughout, right, it's either 小红书 or Pinterest also lah. I mean, even though we are the designers, there tends to be certain trends every now and then. There are also trends that are timeless for sure, but for certain in trends, like the upcoming trends, we would follow closely to all these sorts of like apps to see how we can further improve ourselves. But homeowners are getting smarter and smarter. They are the one that will usually send like mood block for us to refer to, and then we can come up with our own creativity lah. I mean, this is a very good question. I always ask myself, what should I do next? Yeah, what is nice? What should be the next trend you see? So it's all about the creativity. Some people have more creativity juice, some people not as much. So you tend to refer to different aspects.
Do you have a design hero? You have someone that you study his work, or you study his philosophy?
Oh yes, I have to say shout out to my brother-in-law. He's also an ID. He's a boss of an ID company. His design are one of it. I mean, like the person that I inspire from is him lah. Cause his design are always very, no matter what he do lah, it's always super good. The house is always like, what do you call it? He's not following the trend, but he has his own style, unique style. So I always look at his projects for inspiration as well. So
looks like we have to like bring this brother-in-law for an interview as well.
Yeah.
Okay. What about like besides design heroes, right? Do you spend time, money, and effort to maybe travel to see, like say, Milan Fair, this kind of exhibitions?
To me, I don't go to that extent, but whenever I'm out with my family, we will actually, wherever places that we go to, right, I will get inspiration from there. At times I will touch the materials or even the texture on the walls. Then my wife will be like, "What are you doing?"
职业病.
Yeah, then she'll be like, 你有职业病 ah? I'm like, it's part of my profession,
Yeah.
like 职业病, I have to see and to get inspiration from all these sort of different patterns, different styles. Whenever I go to a place that is really nice, like restaurant, right, I would touch and I will see, then I'll take pictures, then I'll show my colleagues and all. 这个不错哦, then we can do it. We can get inspired from all these sort of things. I think it's very, very good lah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I like your answer. It's honest, direct, authentic. Okay, we come to the end of this episode of the SIXiDER Show. We had Lucas joining us and sharing with us valuable insights with regards to HDB, landed condos, and then do's, do nots, and all that. If you want to find out more, you can, of course, go to Project 19's website, Facebook, their Instagram, or, of course, reach out to them through us from SIXiDER, and we'll be happy to connect you guys. Right? So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so later you let us know who is this Semi brother-in-law that we should be bringing for our show.
I will.
Yeah, we'll see you guys soon in the next episode of the SIXiDER Show. Bye.